So I would argue, and of course, once again, this is full of presuppositions. I'm just guessing here. I would argue that there's a degree of disingenuity when it comes to people saying that her Brigitte series is not important or it's trash. And I think you made a clip on it. I didn't watch the whole clip, but you said something about how Macron is an enemy of Israel or something along these lines. And why is she going for Macron? I truthfully, and I'm saying this from the heart, and I've only watched 2 episodes of her series. I haven't even watched the whole thing. And I didn't even watch your whole clip. But I don't see how anyone can not think that's good journalism and not think it's hilarious. I really don't think it's genuine for people to sit and say that that series was a setup somehow and she's working for the Russians somehow and that she's somehow working for the Jews because she did that. And I think that it's people disliking her, so instantly tarnishing her work. And I think that it's very important for us as professionals to be able to sit down and say, even if my worst enemy, I can sit and say, I don't like that person, but that work was good. Like, I think Matt Walsh, by and large, is not even a bad person. I think he just has no impact on the culture at all. I don't think anybody cares what he says. But when I saw some of his clips when he was making fun of the tree, it was funny. Like, okay, cool. That's good work. Like, I don't care who makes the work if the work is good. And I noticed after your argument with her, everyone was saying that her Brigitte series was bullshit. I don't think it's unimportant, and I don't think it was bullshit. I think it was actually very informative, and I think it was quite an interesting story. And I think that if Macron is fucking his dad, we should know. And I also think that it's fucking hilarious how triggered he is. And I would argue that normally you, if you didn't have a beef with Candace, would also be saying the same thing, that this is funny, and Macron's pissed, and this is all hilarious. Or do you genuinely, your emotions, your feelings for Candace aside, really think that that piece of work is somehow bad work to do?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's actually the opposite. I liked Candace last year, and I hated the Brigitte Macron thing. I just didn't say anything because I didn't want to mess with her thing. I'll give you a counterexample. She did an interview with Phil Turney, who's a survivor of the USS Liberty. I thought that was excellent. I thought that was brilliant. Got huge coverage, totally drove the conversation forward. I'm objective. I'm honest. I tell it like it is. I do have a major problem with Candace right now, but that was awesome. And unquestionably so. I'll tell you my issue with the Brigitte Macron thing. It's a couple of things. One, I think it's weird. I think it's weird that Candace is so hung up on the French president, because in America, we just don't really talk about Europe. We don't really care about Europe that much. It's just not something we're engaged in. So for her to have this laser-like focus on that, to me, it kind of gives me a weird feeling from the beginning. Then you delve into kind of the history there. And for a long time, there's been an effort to go after Macron from this crew. Like, I don't know if you know, but back in 2017, there was this huge effort to say that Macron was gay, and that was being pushed by Russian media. It was being pushed by Sputnik and Russia Today. They were quoting Julian Assange. They leaked all Macron's email 2 days before the election in 2017. So there's been, for like 8 years, this concerted campaign to attack Macron personally, call him gay, say he's married to his dad. So that's another thing, is like it comes back over and over again. Then you get into the person pushing this, the guy, Xavier Poussard. He wrote the book, Becoming Brigitte. This guy's crazy. Like, the guy that originated the theory, it's very fringe in France. He believes in the QAnon stuff. He thinks he's working for Trump. He thinks he's working for Putin. The guy's nuts. And when you get down into the actual information, at the end of the day, their proof is that there's a photograph of the person they say Brigitte is as a child, and using this Chinese facial recognition, it says there's an 80% match to Brigitte Macron today. And I don't think that's super good journalism. I think the evidence is flimsy. And I would say maybe there's something going on there. Maybe Brigitte Macron is weird or something. But to me, the evidence is very flimsy. So that's my problem with it. And the reason that I even call it out, why not let it alone? The reason I call it out is because, one, if it's an angle from Russia or some other thing, then that needs to be called out by itself. But two, I think it's so kooky, it just makes us look bad. I think it's one of those things where maybe people watch the USS Liberty show, but then if you're talking about aliens and secret transgenders and the Frankists and, you know, space isn't real, it's like, then we just look like we're crazy. So that's the other thing. But it's actually in reverse of what you said. If I liked Candace, I would not talk about my problems with it at all if we had a working relationship. But you know, since we're at odds, I'm more willing to criticize her. So it's totally the opposite.
Well, perhaps this is just a personal preference thing, but I think it's extremely important if we find out that the leader of a European nation, especially the nation which just overthrew the election here, by the way, one of the most important economies on the planet, and Europe is by and large America's ally and will have to be against China for the coming decades. If there is an elite ring which is in charge of his country, especially if you want to tie this to Epstein and everything else, and the fact that Keir Starmer's gay and all these things, the fact that we have all these homosexuals in power, I think would largely affect the culture. And we just talked about how the culture is so important. I would argue that it doesn't make us look kooky for investigating that. Very much like you said, we need to, if there's smoke, there's fire. And, you know, if there's the timing is weird, or there's a string here, or there's a link there. I think that she did a fantastic job on the series, and I think it's pretty important. And I'm just surprised from a personal level, you don't find it hilarious that Macron's having a breakdown. I just thought that you would find it funny like I did. When I saw the legal letters, me and Tristan were laughing our ass off. It's funny. The same as Keir Starmer talking about me all day. I think it's funny these people get triggered. Maybe it's just me liking the underdog. Maybe it's just me liking that we have some degree of power to actually influence the emotions of these people who are suppressing us, especially in Europe, so heavily. So I was just surprised by your take on that. And my conclusion in my mind was, he's pretending that's not good work when it's clearly hilarious because he doesn't like Candace. And you've given your answer, which I respect. I was just highlighting why I thought that was weird, because I actually thought that was a fantastic series. And I think if it turns out she is right, I think that's very important. I would argue that's extremely important. And I mean, right now we have the problem with Keir Starmer in the UK. He got caught fucking Ukrainian rent boys. That we're not allowed to say that. I'm about to catch another charge for saying that right now. I'm trapped in Europe. And perhaps maybe you're saying America first, and as Americans, we don't care. I'm in Europe. They're the ones throwing me in jail. They're the ones fucking with my life. They're the ones who are constantly watching everything I say. They're the ones watching this stream right now, trying to raise charges on me. And the Western world, by and large, is the same thing. I think that you even said earlier at the beginning of this that America was founded on European white heritage. So we don't want to lose the ancient countries. We don't want to lose the original lands of the people we're trying to restore to glory. So I think she's doing fantastic work. And that's my personal view on it. I think she's doing fantastic work with it. And I was just surprised you disagreed on that point. That's all.
Yeah, well, and that's legitimate. I guess for me, you know, your point about it's funny, like that does resonate with me, because I thought that way for a long time. I would look at something like that and say, oh, you know, we're doing it for the lulz. We're doing it, you know, because we're trolling Macron. We're trolling everybody. But what I have come to learn over the years is that a lot of the things that seem random or seem like they're based on hype, they're all coordinated. And that doesn't mean that everything.
That is true. That is absolutely true. And there are systems and there are groups and there are piles of money being thrown around. You're absolutely right about that. I want to make it clear. You're completely correct.
Yeah. So that's where and I'm not saying, and I said it on Bradley Martin, as far as Candace is concerned, I said everything I say about the Brigitte Macron thing is speculative. You know, is it a Russian operation? I said that is a theory. That's like a working postulate that I haven't really even researched, but just that's sort of where my gut says. And we just do need to be mindful. As I grow older, I see these kinds of memes, trends, and it's easy when you're 18 and you have no orientation of politics. You kind of like, you know, when you're a kid, you don't know how this stuff works. And for me, I was a young edgelord. I was a young shit poster troll. And you'd see the bigger accounts in the group chats pushing a meme, a certain narrative, something. And you say, oh, I like this poster. I like Gavin McInnes. I like this guy, that guy, whatever. What they're pushing is funny. And I'm just using him as an example of a big poster. Yeah. And you go, yeah, we're going to join in on this. And as I get older, I realize a lot of that stuff is backed by money. It's coordinated. It is like, it's a domain of warfare. It's information warfare. And that's why I scrutinize it a lot more and I'm very careful. I fully believe that Candace believes what she's saying. I actually don't doubt her sincerity. I just think that that whole narrative, maybe someone gave it to her. It might be a possibility. And even to the extent that it exists in Russia, it's either kookery or it is being picked up by an intelligence agency for some reason, because that's very strange and conspicuous, the whole thing. So especially this, like, this idea that the West is like satanic elite. I don't doubt that there's something like that going on when you look at like spirit cooking and the Podestas and Pizzagate. I also think that sometimes foreign intelligence leans into narratives like that to sow discontent or dissonance inside of our society. And it's our job to discern those things. It doesn't mean that every narrative like that is fake. It doesn't mean, and not every narrative like that is true. It's up to us to discern. And so as far as the Brigitte thing is concerned, I think Candace is sincere. I don't find it very compelling. And I think at the minimum, it is being picked up by Russia on some level because Russia is adversaries with France. And as you know, the more you get into politics, the more you realize everything proceeds from intelligence and defense. Everything proceeds from the national security state.
Yep.
The energy needs, the technology, the media, information domain. These are all domains of warfare. We're in the age of complexity. And so if I can impress nothing else on my followers, it's that. It's all warfare. It's all ongoing, open, everyone against everyone warfare, even in the information space.